Do you know what Bitcoin is? Anybody? Oh, good. There are people in my audience who are arms dealers and murderers for hire. Excellent.
These cryptocurrencies have been dominated by illicit activities.
They help tax evaders.
There's a lot of stories about drug dealers using these kind of things.
They're harmful.
We don't want bad actors using cryptocurrencies.
Criminals. Terrorists.
Illicit activities.
Murderers.
Tax evaders.
Arms dealers.
Drug dealers.
Bad actors.
Malcontents.
And criminals.
Criminal.
Criminals.
Criminals. Criminals.
Why is it that criminals become early adopters of technology? Because they face the highest level of friction in the marketplace. Because criminal enterprise is the least efficient form of enterprise. And therefore, you have to use it's the most brutally competitive, and you have to use the most cutting-edge technology. Criminals were the first to use cars, the first to use phones, the first to use electricity, the first to use every single technology, because by necessity. And that's not saying that's a good thing. That's just a simple recognition of the fact that when you have something that solves problems, it will be applied in the areas where friction is highest. And the places where friction is highest is usually related to illicit activity, because the friction is imposed by society to stop those things from happening, right? And so, of course they do. Of course they use them. But that changes very quickly, and it changes in every technology, because as the adoption spreads and it becomes more mainstream, the use of the technology changes to reflect the user adoption, to reflect the society and the culture that's adopting it. And Bitcoin is already morphing into that.
They will tell you that what we are doing by encouraging people to use Bitcoin is we are traitors to our nations. We are criminals. We are thugs. We are drug dealers and terrorists.
Cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin have been exploited to support billions of dollars of illicit activity like cybercrime, tax evasion, extortion, ransomware, illicit drugs, human trafficking.
They help terrorists. And criminals move money around the world.
I'm just a coder. I'm not a terrorist. I'm not a thug. But if I have the opportunity to build an exit from this system, then I will take that opportunity, because I know who the real terrorists are.
The biggest criminals in the world have banking licenses of their own. They don't need to money launder. They own HSBC, and that money launders for them. You know, the biggest money launderers in the world are the banks, obviously, because that's where the money is.
These are Britain's most respected banks, with millions of ordinary customers, and they're accused of handling nearly $750 million from a massive money laundering scheme run by Russian criminals with links to the Kremlin. In all, 17 banks were named in a report sent to the media by the Organised Crime and Corruption Reporting Project.
The easiest way to money launder is if you have a banking license. So of course, the biggest money launderers have banking licenses. Putting everybody under surveillance doesn't mean the criminals can't use money anymore. Of course they can. They will continue to do that. They will always have means of doing it. It just means that everybody else is under surveillance. So you end up surveilling the innocent. And what does that give you? That gives you political control. This is a very dangerous road we're going down. We've never had in the history of humanity the ability to monitor everybody's economic activity all the time. And to give that power to governments without question is extremely dangerous. It won't result in reducing terrorism, but it will turn several governments into terrorists themselves. It won't reduce crime, but it will turn governments into criminals. It won't reduce corruption, but it will increase corruption at banks. And it will put people at the mercy of a system in which, at a flick of a binary switch, you can become a non-person. Went to the wrong website attended the wrong protests, associated with the wrong political party, expressed support for the wrong idea, off. When our governments and our regulators and the institutions that are barely democratic to start with anymore try to control the use of technology, what they're doing is they're reducing the number of good people who can use the technology in ways to do good and counteract the evil things that a few are doing. Because guess what? The people who are doing bad with this technology, they're not going to stop because you passed a law. If you make it illegal to trade in cryptocurrencies, only criminals trade in cryptocurrencies. Probably the very same government ministers who signed the law to make it illegal in the first place, they will be the first criminals to trade in cryptocurrency. They'll probably get bribed in cryptocurrency too, because they kind of like the idea of having a Swiss bank account in their pocket. Imagine a world where everyone could have a Swiss bank account in their pocket. Because guess what? The bad guys already do. They already have banking privacy. They can afford it. If it's not in Switzerland, it's in Panama. If it's not in Panama, it's in Malta. If it's not in Malta, it's in Hong Kong. And it's going to be somewhere else next.
Latest Swiss Leaks revelations indicate that HSBC in Geneva supported its clients in their illegal business dealings for years. Anyone who wanted to, for instance, dodge taxes at home, opened an account at HSBC's Geneva branch. The client would be given a numbered account, which could then be used to open numerous sub-accounts, and the money could be distributed among them all. Additionally, clients could shelter their money in a foundation with headquarters in an offshore tax haven. But HSBC didn't just help its clients with traditional tax dodging. Its bankers also allegedly helped launder money. For instance, the files reveal that money from blood diamond trafficking was invested with the bank. Several thousand gem dealers are listed as clients of HSBC's Swiss bank. Money from drug trafficking was also found in the bank's accounts, and even weapons dealers are said to be clients, including top-level financial backers of the terrorist group Al-Qaeda.
The bad guys already have all of these tools. They can afford to. They're already breaking the law. What's one more law? It's the rest of us that don't have them. So again, we are being prevented from using technology for good in order to punish the few who are doing evil, and in the process we all lose. We all lose. The answer for dictators evading sanctions with cryptocurrency is citizens evading dictators with cryptocurrency. And there's a hell of a lot more citizens evading dictators than dictators evading sanctions. We should be airdropping the technology for crypto. Because guess what? Kim Jong-un already has a bank account down the street. Right? So why don't we give every one of their citizens a Swiss bank in their pocket? The fact is that in human society, the number of people who do evil is tiny. To equal them to the number of people who do good is to ignore human nature and to engage in the politics of fear. And when we engage in the politics of fear in order to punish the few people who are doing bad, by punishing everybody, by removing the capability of financial independence and sovereignty from everyone, and worse, giving that capability and the surveillance of that to a government, what does that government attract? The very evil people we were talking about. Because if there is a lever of power, the people who are attracted to hold that lever of power are the worst. It's human nature. There's more people trying to do good with their financial independence and empowerment than there are trying to do evil. That asymmetry is at the core of classic liberalism. The idea that the more free people are, the more you have good outcomes in society, and that you should trust people to pursue their own self-interest, the pursuit of happiness, as we used to call it in America, right? And if you allow people to do that, they will get a better life, and they will do better things for themselves, for their children, for their neighbors. That is human nature. We are walking away from that and creating a world in which we're trying to control everyone. And in doing so, we're actually damaging our possibility of a better future. In the end, what this is about, what the politics of fear are about, is about removing power from you and centralizing that power. And I can tell you that that encourages evil acts. It encourages evil acts on a scale we can't even imagine. You think someone's buying drugs with Bitcoin? Well, of course they're buying drugs with Bitcoin. You can't get stabbed over TCP/IP. It's a pretty good solution to a fundamental problem of asymmetric violence on the street. But no one's funding the Saudi bombing campaign in Yemen with crypto. No, that's my taxpayer dollars. Nobody's fighting insurgent campaigns sponsored by intelligence agencies that are slaughtering millions with crypto. Nobody is money laundering for the drug cartels. HSBC does that.
HSBC officials listed Mexico in its lowest risk category for money laundering during a 4-year period when Mexican drug cartels were funneling over $700 billion through the bank. Under the terms of today's settlement, nobody at HSBC will face criminal charges.
So remember that as this happens, we're going to be called criminals for offering an exit. Then we're going to be called criminals for pointing at the exit. Then we're going to be called criminals for simply pointing out the fact that the economy is on fire and that there is an exit. And in each stage of escalation of the currency wars, every act you take in opposition to the observable fact that the entire economy is on fire, every chance you give people an opportunity to head for the exits, you will be the criminal. And before long, they will rewrite history. They will rewrite history to say that the reason the banks are failing and the reason the economy is on fire is because you provided an exit, is because Bitcoin exists. They will say that Bitcoin started the fire. And at that point, you must all repeat and remember the slogan that will be important. We are not criminals. We're offering an exit for everybody. We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world was turning. Thank you.
What you can do is you can criminalize ordinary behavior, and if everybody's a criminal, then the power of government becomes absolute. If you can throw anyone into jail anytime you want, then government has enormous power. Everyone's a criminal.